your brain is just steadily spinning up and just running faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. It's like a car on a dyno. You think you're stopped. And if you've ever seen a dyno, I'll put a video clip up if you're watching YouTube. It's where they put cars on to test the horsepower and what horsepower is getting to the wheels and how the engine's performing. The car is physically not moving anywhere. It's just spinning faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. When you're just doom scrolling, that's what you're doing to your brain. I'm just going to jump right in for the listeners or the watchers over on YouTube. We almost got to hang out this weekend.
Almost. So close.
But you had a bit of an incident, and we should unpack that a little bit.
Let's just say when you get to be my age, don't do relay races.
You got to use when you get to be my age loosely because we are close to the same age. So
I know. I'm not a Tom Brady, right? So not in my physical prime here. They called me. They said that you're a weekend warrior, and I'm like, yeah, it's about right. Like I just had gotten done with an amazing hike. If you're from the Virginia area, the Peaks of Otter, beautiful sunrise hike with the men's ministry work that I was doing. Came down and it was great. Told myself the whole time, don't hurt yourself, don't hurt yourself, don't hurt yourself, and didn't. And then came back and got picked for a relay race. And in that relay race, completely blew out my Achilles on my right foot.
Ugh. See, the ironic part about that is you didn't do it while hiking.
No.
It was...
Which would be the logical place to do it.
Right. And so I've always had this defensiveness about me. Not aggressive, but just... where people will tell me, you are accident prone. And I'm like, no, I am not accident prone. I'm not clumsy. I don't trip over things in the house. I'm not going to go hike or climb a mountain and get injured. What is going to happen is like I will have freak accidents that cause major injury.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a difference. Michelle and I've talked about this, and my closest friends, they all vehemently disagree, but I think they're wrong.
Well, I'm going to go on your side because when I told you what had happened, you started laughing on the phone the other day, and you're like, I'm not laughing at you, but we're so similar. You're right. I people would beg to differ with me, but I would agree with you on that one as well. I have not broken a bone or torn anything up until this point. So, some of my, but I've had cuts and scrapes and concussions and those kinds of things, but not in the things that you would think, so you got a guy on your side. I'm with you on that one. And
right. And for the listeners, when I say freak accidents, I mean like, not like a knife falls out of a knife block and sticks in my foot. I mean like, this is like movie level freaky stuff. Like, what was that movie, that was wildly popular when we were younger? What about the people that like cheated death somehow?
Final Destination.
Yes, like Final Destination type stuff. So like quick story, then we'll get into where we're actually going today. But my mom's one of her best friends, and so my mom's their godmother, and their youngest daughter was in the backyard. And when she was real little, she used to call me boy. She couldn't say my name. Like Jonathan is a mouthful of syllables for a little kid, and she would say, "Boy, come play on the swing." So I was like pushing her on the swing, and she was like, I want to see you go really high. And so I got on this swing, and my parents had this huge oak tree in the backyard and had this swing. And so I got in it and was swinging, and she kept going higher, higher, higher. And I was like, God, this is bringing this little kid great joy. So I'll keep doing it. So I was swinging really high. And it's almost like if you've ever used like an old school traditional slingshot where you have the leather pieces, and then right at the bottom of the arc, you have to let it go so the rock comes flying out. Well, right at the bottom of the swing at like maximum speed before it starts to go back up, the rope on the outside broke from the top of the tree, and it launched me out of the swing like a rock and wrapped around me and caught me through my armpit, thankfully, and around my neck and like jerked me tight. And then I looked like Clint Eastwood from that movie Hang 'em High for like weeks because the rope essentially
burned you.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for my arm being in the way, would have probably
It
mortally
killed you.
wounded me.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
So it's things like that. So I was walking around for weeks looking with like extreme rope burn that stopped on the right-hand side of my neck because my arm was there. And then it continued down my armpit across my bicep, but it went all the way around my neck on the other side and was like blister burn. It was so aggressive. Like it's that kind of injury with me. Again, I am not clumsy. I am not clumsy, nor am I accident prone.
Well, I'll side with you on that one because that's where I'm at to do. So,
We are, as always, we're going to jump into something. I mean, I think it's super practical, but I also think it's something that people lump together. And I have a very personal story that I'll share that ties into this. But we're sort of talking the difference between loneliness versus solitude. And I would even throw in there the difference of being alone. Being alone, I would argue, is different than loneliness. And then there's solitude, which I think is very healthy. Um, but it's the one thing that if you tell someone who is dealing with symptoms of feeling alone or battling loneliness, if you tell them, which I have been told too in a very unhealthy way, that, hey, the discipline of solitude is actually good for you, they will look at you like you have just sprouted a third eye in the middle of your forehead.
yeah, I mean, it goes all about definitions, right? So it's amazing to me, and I'd love your thoughts on this, but just how minimally defined we are in some of these areas, right? So we're talking about loneliness. Well, has anybody defined it? We talked, and obviously in my writings, in my books, The Path Out of Loneliness, I spent a lot of time digging into it. And I've got a definition that we'll put in the show notes, but let me read it for you real quick. I say that loneliness is the state of being unseen or unnoticed relationally, mentally, emotionally, physically, or spiritually, and it can be driven by a lack of purpose or meaning, relationship and or identity, and is marked by a deep sense of hopelessness.
Okay.
Um, and I was really intentional about the choice of words, right? Because I could have said the state of feeling unseen or unnoticed, but I said the state of being, and I think there's a real distinction there.
So unpack that for a minute.
Yeah, all of us wrestle with bouts of being lonely, right? I mean, I think that's a human condition that we can all relate to. And it might be we miss out on an opportunity. We're isolated from friends. There's things that we wish. It's just it happens. But I think the reason I chose the state of being is it's almost like we've gotten to a place where things have gotten so bad and our mindset has changed. So we've acquiesced to this is our lot, and it's mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, where we can be in a room full of people and still feel unseen or unnoticed. But then it's driven by a lack of purpose. So I think when we lose our purpose, when we lose our identity, is where things come in. And but I think we can have all of those still and still have a good mindset. It's when hopelessness creeps in, I think, is when we are now beholden to our loneliness state. And I think that hopelessness is a pervasive whisper or shout of this is not going to get any better. Woe is me, mindset.
So hopelessness shows up not in the terms of, I would say hopelessness shows up, you don't even know that it's happening until it's already there. Like
Agreed.
it will,
Yeah.
like it
Blindsides you.
it's kind of like if you're looking down an alleyway at sunset and then you see a shadow down that alleyway, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until all of a sudden it's past you and you're like in the shadow. Like you can kind of see it there, but then before you realize it, it's now caught up to you and you're now in it.
And I think when you're in that state of being, there's some protective factors that have gone missing where you're not able to remove yourself or get that perspective. And I think that's where loneliness creeps in, is that we lose that perspective. And it robs us of identity and purpose. And that's what I think hopelessness does. And so that's why I said state of being instead of state of feeling.
So I want you to give your definition of alone. And then I want just to go ahead and set the tone and and we'll talk about solitude, and then I'm going to give you my definitions.
Okay. Yeah, alone. I think the definition of alone actually has to do with proximity and distance, in my opinion. So when I hear loneliness, I mean, I can see that wrapped up into kind of the psychological, emotional side of things. The idea of aloneness, it almost, I almost add distance and time to that as well.
Like I just had this conversation with my grandmother. She lives alone. And then she also navigates feelings of loneliness because she physically in proximity lives by herself.
But I would also say that you could be alone and not lonely.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Which is what was going to lead us into the whole conversation around solitude in a minute. But so I think, alone, the idea of alone is more of that physical proximity side of things, where I think loneliness is then enters into a mindset of identity and purpose.
And then what about solitude? That's the term that everyone's like, no.
I think solitude is a discipline.
It is.
I think solitude is necessary for us to develop a holistic sense of self.
I was terrified of the thought of solitude. Because I fell into a lie that the other two were defining me. I would say for me, I allowed the belief that I'm alone and consistent loneliness, those two together, baked hopelessness in the oven.
Speak to that a little more.
So constantly believing that I was alone, and then constantly accepting that I didn't have anyone around me, that loneliness was there, that I'm being left out, that everyone's doing this, like sort of loneliness was me on the outside watching the world happen, that those two together were the ingredients to bake hopelessness in the oven. Like, oh.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep. I follow you. Yeah. Agreed.
Like those two together. And then when someone mentioned, like, have you thought about solitude? I was like, go kick rocks with open-toed shoes.
Right.
But it is the healthiest discipline. But to get just super practical, like my definitions.
Yes, please. Yeah.
I think they're accurate, but they're not clinical at all. Loneliness for me, the way I look at it is when you open your phone hoping that someone texted you, but it was just a notification from your bank.
Okay.
You were hoping for that connection, but it was just your bank saying, hey, there's a pending charge on your account.
Mm-hmm.
Alone is when no one's around. You're actually totally fine until your brain starts to replay every awkward thing you've done this past week.
Mm-hmm.
Get into your head. And solitude for me is when you're by yourself on purpose and you actually enjoy it until someone asks you why you're being weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another way to look at solitude is the same thing as being alone, but with snacks, boundaries, and emotional maturity.
Okay, say that one more time because I like that.
It's the same thing as being alone, but with snacks, boundaries, and emotional maturity.
Okay, I can go with that. I like that practicality. Yeah. So I love this. I mean, everybody knows that I'm a counselor and a pastor, and I get to teach a spiritual formations and counseling retreat every year, which is a fun thing. And we do it up in the mountains of northern Colorado, just outside of Fort Collins, behind Horsetooth Reservoir, for those that are knowing that area very well. And one of the assignments for my class is a 3-hour mandatory silent retreat. How many of you listening think that my class students are just beyond thrilled about that assignment? And they're like, I can't bring my phone. No, you can't bring your phone. I can't bring my iPod, AirPod. I can't listen. No, you can't listen to music. You can bring a pen and a journal, and that's it. And they're like, well, 3 hours is so long. How am I gonna fill that time? I'm like, just go with it. And when they come back, they're like, that was the best thing ever. I had no idea that I needed that. That was amazing. And but it's mindset, I think, in a lot of ways.
Another mutual friend, Austin Walker.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
His bespoke leadership organization, Apex, and they do a yearly gathering. I've gone to it a few times, and they do a solitude component where they send everyone out for, I think it's like 2 hours. And the first couple times I did it was really uncomfortable. I was like, what do I do? Like, I need to be doing something. Like, I need to be, I've already walked a ton. I don't even walk anymore. Like, I'm not going to, you didn't have your phone. I had my watch for time. And so just so to know when to come back to the next session. And I remember it being so disorienting and so uncomfortable. And this first time was before my like whole world exploded or imploded. And I was so, which now looking back is a telltale sign of like I was so just spun up and like had to be doing something that I couldn't allow myself to sit with myself. I was also wrestling with the other two. Like I hated being by myself. Like I hated it. Like I always felt like I had to be around people or the world was just going to collapse. And there's a whole lot of other stuff there we can talk about. But then the second time we did it, I was in the middle of just everything. And there were so many unknowns. And the second time, knew we were going to do it. And I took a journal and I took my hammock and just put it between two trees and just laid there and just stared up to the clouds and just listened to what was around me and just sort of, it still was miserable, but tried to embrace it more. And then there's been this steady progression to it, and I still have regularly, and I think we all do, fall into the trap of oh, I'm alone. When you're really not. And it sounds simple, and I know it sounds cliche for people listening, like, no, you're not alone. You have people around you. You have things around you. You have people that probably want to lean into your life but don't know how.
It's just as awkward for them as it is for us, right? I mean, so I think
Right. And that's the thing that I've had to remember. Like, it's awkward for me to go to someone and say, can we go do something? As it is for someone to be like, I think they're going through something right now, and I don't know what to do because I don't want to make it worse. And so I just don't know. I don't want to like make the problem worse.
it's interesting. So super grateful. Like this whole experience, like I've got probably a good 12 weeks before I can drive again, and I'm, you know me, I'm a doer. Like I'm a go-getter. I'm a doer. Let's tackle that mountain. Let's find a way. I can't put any weight on my right foot. Like I can't drive. I can't do anything right now. I mean, I'm watching.
Wait, if this is one of those questions, the would you do it if questions? If someone like Elon Musk walked up to you today and plopped 2 briefcases over with $1 billion in it to stand on to try and stand on your injured foot and balance, would you attempt it?
No, because I honestly don't want the long-term or physical effects of it, right? And so I'm just sitting there going, okay, like for me, it's a mindset. Like, but I've been so humbled and honored by all the people that have made an effort to reach out and see how I'm doing, even if it's been awkward for them. Like I don't know what to say. Like, and I have a couple of friends that are just funny individuals, and they're just making fun of me, and but it's that endearing piece. And so it's been a kind of a humbling and honoring experience at the same time. But like, I know I'm going to struggle. Like, I just know myself. I know, like today, I'm before we got on the call, like I'm kind of my goodwill and this is an adventure and we'll figure this out mindset kind of did not wake up with me this morning because it was just,
No, you're like, this is shitty.
this is just, come on.
I'm only laughing because I've been there, and it's the things that you don't even pay attention to being a creep in. Like, oh, like I'm gonna get up and go get a glass of water. Actually, that's a whole process now.
Yep. And so basically what I've just decided is like, I'm going to take it day by day. And I'm going to try to find, I'm already planning, which is why I love this conversation today. I'm already planning opportunities for solitude. So I've got 3, 2, two. I don't know if I shared this, but I've got a new book deal on raising kids in the age of anxiety, and so I have to get that written by.
You guys heard it here first. This is news to me. We're gonna we're gonna celebrate this.
Just got that deal 2 days ago, so I've got time, right? I've got to write a crisis manual for pastors that's due in a couple months. So I'm like, okay, this is an opportunity for me to slow down, to really engage my time with the Lord, with relationships around me. I've got a friend of mine that called me and said, "Hey, no, you can't drive. I'm picking you up on Friday for lunch." Okay, right? I mean, so I think for me, it's an opportunity, and this is why I wanted to have this conversation, because I'm trying to talk, like actively talking myself out of feeling lonely and kind of into a place of, I can actually take opportunities to engage the solitude, if that makes sense.
So when I've got a couple things, they're not all over the place, but we're gonna get there. I promise. Was there a time when solitude was something you were not open to, and then what shifted it for you?
I'll be honest, I still struggle because of the extreme intentionality solitude takes, and that means that I've got to slow down and reflect. I look at my injury as God just going, I didn't keep it from happening. I wasn't the one that did it, right? But I didn't keep it from happening, because I think you need to slow down, Mark. I think you're too busy. I think you're going too fast. And that was kind of as I was riding in the back of my friend's car back to Richmond Airport, uh,
Okay, so that's the other thing. You drove to Lynchburg, and then and for those not familiar with the area, Lynchburg, Virginia to Richmond, good 2 hours and 50 minutes,
yeah, almost 3 hours.
2:45, yeah, almost 3 hours to get there. So you had to have someone drive you. That's humbling right there. Like, not only are you driving me here, and then you're gonna turn in and drive all the way back.
Yeah, and so that whole time, I'm having a good conversation with this guy. He's become a new friend. I really enjoy his, he was just a real servant in this. But, like, I was arguing with God the whole way, going like, "What? Why? What's the purpose of this?" And it was I think a recognition that I had become. I honestly, as I'm talking this out right now, I'm just for the first time, but like I had become self-reliant. Um, and I think solitude is a gift to help us recognize that we need to be reliant on God. It's an invitation for relationship with Him. I think when we become so busy, and I think loneliness is almost a worldly. So and I don't want people to hear me. I'm just processing this. I don't think loneliness is something that we need to engage with in a shame posture, but I think in some ways it's a lack of remembrance of who God is.
Yeah, and I would say, if just to be aware of people that are listening that may not have some sort of spiritual formation, solitude's also a way just to slow down
Sure.
and realize, like, I don't have to push so hard. Or if I want to gain clarity into this, or if I feel stuck in something, and I don't know what to do, or I'm asking questions like, why is this happening? This is strange. What's going on?
Right. Right.
Like, and you're moving so fast. It's a way to step into a different rhythm for a moment and give yourself space to be with yourself in a healthy way.
Space, I think perspective is another thing. And so as much as I'm not excited about a 12 to 16 week recovery PT, and then I won't be back to normal until probably May. Like, I'm like, okay, how can I look at this differently? I know that there's going to be moments where I'm going to be pissed and I'm going to struggle and I'm going to feel just totally discombobulated. But I also have to remind myself to come take a step back and go, okay, what am I supposed to learn? What, and again, I think it's for me, it's personally, it's um, solitude is a reminder of that I've got others around me that I can lean in on and rely on versus my own fortitude. Um, and I think it's a humbling place. Like I don't, and I'm sure I know you can relate to this. I don't receive care from others well. I'd rather be the one caring for others. I'd rather be the one doing. And this is just a reminder that it's okay. It's okay for me to receive care from others. It's okay for me to be in a place of not having a quick fix and slowing down and just, I think, embracing the nuance of that, I think, is where solitude is an invitation.
Definitely something I hated, but it is something that I've learned to really appreciate. I'm not good at it. Like I try to hold to a rhythm of going away at least a couple times a year, with a few days by myself. I did it, right, like days after a big life change for me, and went down to the beach for like 4 days, uh, and camp, took the dog with me, and that was really refreshing. And it was something that was like all of my friends at that point, like, are you good? Are you all right? I'm like, yeah, just really just going to get away with myself. And I'd gone away 6 months prior. And I was like, you know what? This is actually beneficial. So I just preemptively put it on the calendar for 6 months later. I didn't know what all was going to happen in that 6 months and how this just happened to pop on the backside of it. So it gave me space. And I try to hold to it. I'm definitely not good at it. And as I process this out loud, but it has become a benefit. And I think coup a couple years ago, I was out for a run. It was July. It was 1,000,000 degrees, and I don't forget what I was mad at, but I was really pissed, and so I was like angry running, um, and it was a mess. Like I didn't pack enough water, and I got to the end of my run, and I was like, I'm just gonna keep on going. So I'm still going, and I remember I was like running up along the river in Richmond. And so I get to one of the islands and I'm turning and there's a crowd of people that always walk down past this museum and everything. And I see this, uh, man, a lady and like three people walking behind him. And as they turn the corner, I'm running and I didn't move out of the way and I hockey checked the guy. Like not on purpose. Like I looked at him, looked down and I could have moved way around, but I was like, this is my running lane. This is where I'm going. And when I say I hockey checked the guy, it looked like Tom Wilson from the Capitals, like slamming a guy into the glass. And I kept running and I ran probably 30 yards and then I stopped and I was like, you jackass. Like, you got to go back and apologize. And so I turned around and I'm running back and I turn the corner and I see him and I go up and I like pull my earbuds out and I was like, hey, I'm really sorry. And then the guys behind him like ran up and like kind of came not around me, but they flanked me really quick. And I was like, what in the world? And then I looked and made eye contact and realized immediately who it was. It was the former governor of Virginia. And so I was like, I'm really sorry. Said his name. He was like, oh, it's no big deal. He goes, I run all the time. He goes, I haven't been able to much the last couple of years. He goes, but I really, he goes, it's something that, he goes, I run because it's great for my mental health, is what he said. And then never met the man, had never had a conversation with him, and the conversation went right there. And so I was in the middle of it, and he was like, let's chat for a few minutes. And the two guys were his security, and they went on around. And he was like, never said, do you know who I am? I was like, I know who you are. And then he was like, I'm just here with the family. He goes, we're back where we live, and just wanted to tour. He goes, but I run. He goes, I run often for my mental health. He goes, two of the things that I deal with, especially in what I do, and in what he says to me next was what I had been battling on in my head. And it was one of those just divine appointments. And he goes, two things I deal with. And he goes, I've realized they're lies. He goes, I deal with feeling alone and loneliness all the time. He goes, and one of the things I've had to realize in running helps. He goes, yes, there's times where I can feel lonely. He goes, where I need people. And he goes, I've learned that I can sit in that. He goes, or I can be proactive with it. He goes, and there's times where I'm physically going to be alone. Whether it's by the nature of my job or what's going on where there's not anyone in proximity where I'm going to be alone. He goes, but in either of those situations, I have a choice. If I can stay there or I can be proactive with it. He goes, and I've learned that, he goes, that helped me. He goes, and he goes, and I came to that way from running. He goes, because even when I feel alone, he goes, I'm not. There's people around me. And when I feel lonely, there's still people around me, and I don't have to fall into the trap of hopelessness. And he shook my hand. He goes, I don't know what. I felt like I had to share that with you. And then we parted ways.
That's awesome. That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah. And I think for those that are listening, the practical side of this is that we know ourselves, or we should know ourselves well enough where we are like a little bit more flexible, open-handed. I'm ready to learn versus like, yeah, I don't want to learn anything and I'm going to just be in my bad mood and I'm going to be my thing. I think we need to recognize that the biggest piece of this is just kind of an open-handed vulnerability that we need to experience. Um, and then also I think we need to make sure that we have got people around us that can speak into that. And I think there's some people that might be listening going, I don't have anybody around me. Like, okay, then that's where you need to go find a life coach or a counselor that can begin to help lay a foundation with you and kind of untangle some of these things.
Even, I mean, I would even say there's a step before that. I would tell myself that all the time, where, and it's still true. I do have a good core group of friends that are in local proximity with me now, but for the longest time, and there's still a void where I don't have other people that are like me with what I do vocationally that are in my geographic proximity. And so I had for years believed this lie that your community has to exist where your feet are physically planted on the ground with those around you. And it took realizing that, wait a minute, community is where and what you make it. It's not the most ideal to have a relationship with, you've got connections in another state that are on the other side of a screen. For several years, there was a group of us that were scattered all over the country, and we made a commitment twice a year or once a year. We're going to get together. We're going to get together in one place for a couple of days, spend time together, and we still routinely will text or message back and forth. We're not as consistent as we were because life happens, but those guys are people that I know now that I can go to tomorrow. And if ever I'm feeling lonely or stressed, one of them, I'll pick up the phone and say, hey, you know, I know you're busy. You got 5 minutes? Like, I miss your face and would love to chat for a minute. I need to process something. So even if it's, even if you're apprehensive to therapy and counseling or mentoring, think of someone, make a list of who is someone I can go to, whether they're in my local community physically or in another geographic area, and how can I proximate, or how can I create sort of that extended community where I have someone to go to when I am feeling in such a way. And also to honor that other person, reciprocate it. Say, hey, I would like to have this. And I feel like if it's beneficial to me, it would also be beneficial to you. And that's what established our little group that grew out of that, was that all of a sudden, you know, I was like, hey, I'm going through this stuff. I don't know what needs to be fixed, but you guys come to mind. Will you be a part of this? It ended up being this like mutual care and support of one another that wasn't a loser community. If you want to know what that definition is, we talked about a couple episodes ago. Loser communities are when you get a group of people together and all you do is gripe and moan about everything that's wrong, and you don't celebrate or challenge one another to move in healthy ways. We did both. And that reframed my view of community. So community really is what you make it, not just where you are.
I think that's huge. Yeah, because a lot of, I mean, you and I very rarely get time. We try, and then these things happen where I hurt myself.
It almost happened, but you had to go throw a grenade on your Achilles tendon.
Right? Oh my gosh. And it's like the second time I think we've tried this and it's happened like that. So,
The last one was my fault. I get migraines,
oh, that's right. That's right.
and I had like a really, really bad ocular migraine that messed with my vision. I was ready to attempt to drive. Michelle was like, I'm playing the nurse card. You shouldn't go anywhere.
Don't do it. Yep. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll let you guys know. But no, I think you and I have, I mean, that's important because, you know, we connect a lot over the screens. I've got a couple other friends that I connect with like that too. And it's good. But man, I wish you were done. You know, I wish that you were around the corner and we could, grab a drink every, once in a while, that kind of stuff.
I think it's true. Um, Again, this is not mine. This is an Alan Briggsism, and I promise listeners have heard his name. We'll get him on the show. Limitation breeds innovation. So when you're limited with what you can do, it forces you to innovate with what you can do. And so I know that's true in a lot of spaces now. And I think the more we sort of use that as a tool, okay, I don't need to live like, well, I can't do this because I don't have that. Well, what must be true? If I want this, what can I do to go find that person, or who is that? It's not an all or nothing. So,
Well, I think I think the invitation that I would like to give to people too is solitude doesn't have to be a 3-hour retreat by yourself or a 2-hour retreat. What if solitude began with losing your phone for a couple hours, or turn the TV off for a couple hours, or not being distracted by things,
so you just stole one of my practical takeaways, but
Nice.
we'll camp here for a minute and let you unpack this. So solitude is not being alone, doom scrolling. Like if your alone time includes doom scrolling, you're not alone, you're distracted.
Yep. Or numbing or whatever. Yeah.
And all that's doing, it's letting you disassociate, and all that's doing is just keeping you are feeling physically like you're not doing anything because you're time blind and whatever else. Your brain is just steadily spinning up and just running faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. It's like a car on a dyno. You think you're stopped. And if you've ever seen a dyno, I'll put a video clip up if you're watching YouTube. It's where they put cars on to test the horsepower and what horsepower is getting to the wheels and how the engine's performing. The car is physically not moving anywhere. It's just spinning faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. When you're just doom scrolling, that's what you're doing to your brain.
Yeah. So definitely not solitude. I think solitude is free of distractions so that you're left with your thoughts and your emotions. You can bring a book to read, bring a journal to write things in. But even if you don't want to get to that level, um, just, turn off Alexa, turn off your TV, set your phone aside, just be alone with your thoughts, or cooking, or doing some house chores, or just contemplating things, is maybe a first step. And maybe that's, one of the things that I encourage people to do is maybe lose your phone for a couple hours every other day. Or at least on a Saturday, put on Do Not Disturb and kind of lose it. There's a lot of different ways you can get, but I think then purposeful solitude then is going, okay, can I spend an hour by myself with a journal and my thoughts? Maybe what kind of questions am I asking that I'm looking for answers for, or, what am I contemplating right now? And then make it an hour and a half, then make it 2 hours. Like the goal, I think, for solitude to be really beneficial, I think it needs to be between 3 and 5 hours of time.
Again, you're going to build up to it. I used to would take my dog for a walk, and I love creating things. I like taking photos. I like, capturing moments and memories. And then I realized that's actually kind of a distraction at times. And so one of the ways I would help find what I would call like micro moments of solitude is just practicing being present. So I'd take the dog for a walk, and I would just pay attention to him, and it was like pay attention to what's going on around me, and just being in that moment, and then let that grow out from there. A couple of filters and unpack this is naming things is really important. You can't do what you don't know. You can't fix what you don't name. So when it comes to, are you feeling loneliness, or solitude, is loneliness would be like, I need connection. Solitude would be like, I need space. Most of us can confuse those two. So what I would challenge the listeners is, before you react, pause and ask a question. Given what I'm feeling right now, do I need people right now, or do I need space?
Yeah, I like that. And then what do you do with that? So if you need people, what would you do? If you need space, what would you do?
It's different for me. Sometimes need people means I need the distraction of people around me. So if I was feeling sort of like loneliness at home, because and this is usually me because I can work from wherever, I would pack up my computer and go sit at the coffee shop and work. And then I was like, oh, at least for me, I can work there, and then I'm probably gonna have some conversation with some people. Um, the other side of that is if I feel like I need connection, we'll just send a couple texts and say, hey, um, oftentimes I wouldn't even name like, hey, I'm dealing with some loneliness right now. Sometimes I would just say, hey, could we grab a drink? Could we go do this? Could we do that? Knowing that knowing that the responses I'm going to get are going to be based on the clarity with which I am communicating. So that was another big one for me when I was in a really almost in crisis state, of being like, hey, do you want to hang out? Because I didn't feel comfortable saying, I am not doing well and I just need to be around someone.
Mm. And it's like, and that I think therein lies the finding those people and then educating them. When if I just need to be around, I don't need to be fixed. Can we just go do something? Can we go for a hike together? Can we go for a walk together? Can we go grab a drink together and talk about surfacey things? It's more about that. And I think you coach,
Our crew, we stole it from Simon Sinek, is do you have 8 minutes? Like, if any of us ever get that text across the screen, it means, okay, this is really important. And you are needing some sort of support. It's very real. And so that lets us know, like, okay, yeah, we need to step up, and that eliminates the barrier. You can adapt your own thing into that. It means like, okay, this is for real. And it lowers the burden of you having to like be more vulnerable than you're comfortable with. And the filter for solitude is like it's taken time. It's like I understand my emotional battery. And I'm like, cool. If I've gotten to the end of the week and it's been stressful, it's been, just navigated a lot. The world has whirled itself throughout the week. And it's like, all right, man, like this is great. I've gone 12 rounds with Mike Tyson with one hand tied behind my back and 1 foot because I blew out my Achilles heel. Then I think I need, if I'm going to be present this weekend, I should find some space to like, get myself out for a few hours.
Yeah, and that's gonna be a challenge over the next couple of months for me of just going, okay, how do I do that in a way that removes myself?
Are you going to get the knee bike?
Yeah, my wife Sarah just ordered one for me, so I can get around a little bit easier.
You can trick it out. You can put some little off-road tires on it from Tractor Supply, and you can decorate it for Christmas.
Ooh, the girls would love that. Yeah, that would be fun. That'd be fun.
Another one for me is just checking my inputs. Again, we touched on that. If my alone time has been captivated by doom scrolling or even reading a book, if that becomes a distraction, then I'm just distracted. If you're really aiming to grow the discipline of solitude, it requires quiet, not silence, but you got to give yourself margin, space, release the tension of the rubber bands that are pulling you in two directions. If you feel like Stretch Armstrong all the time, like you've been stretched in multiple directions and you feel like you're about to pop, you feel like you're edgy and people are asking you like, hey, you look stressed. Are you okay? Solitude would do you well.
And like anything we've been talking about over the course of our first season here, it's about finding the rhythms that work best for you. It's about challenging yourself in some small ways, challenging the status quo, but there's not a formula, right? There's no quick fix. And that's where there's no hack for this. It's going, okay, it's taking a survey. It's being honest of my life. Where am I at right now? Where do I need growth? Where do I need supports? And it's trying it, right? And and maybe we can, these are my last words and I'll give you your last words, but I think is this, if you're going to try something new, for the first 30 days, can you achieve it 1 in 4 times? Yeah. Can you try something new if you're wanting to integrate rhythms of solitude, right? So it's not these big retreats or these big old things, but it's just some rhythms. Can you do it 1 in 4 times the first 30 days? So 25% of the time, can you do it? And many of us can say, okay, I can do that. The second set of 30 days is, can I do it 50% of the time? And then the third set, where it becomes kind of these new rhythms, these new habits, these new reflexes, is, can I do it 75% of the time? None of us are perfect, so none of us are going to hit that 100% of the time. But if we can adjust our mindset and go, okay, what am I going to implement in this area? And so it's almost in some ways a reminder and an encouragement to myself as I've entered this new stage of probably 90 days, right, of recovery and those kind of things. What can I do to implement this conversation into my own life? And so I'm gonna take that challenge myself.
I find myself putting to practice things we talk about here, because it's in the moment. So just a couple more for me, and then I've got some final thoughts. Is notice the warning signs. Pay attention to what you pay attention to. If you're irritable, your screen time is up. If you don't even know what that is, you can go into your phone and turn on screen time, and your phone will tell you, hey, over the last week you used less or more. I have it turned on. If you're procrastinating, putting things off, you're starting to miss deadlines, you're starting to overreact, all of those things can mask loneliness. Just loneliness isn't just going to show itself up like Eeyore looking for his tail.
Right, exactly.
You can be very high strung and very like all over the place and still be dealing with it. If you catch any of those, whether it's mild, moderate, or severe, find someone to reach out to. Send a text. If you're going to try stepping into solitude, use it for reflection. Give yourself a time. Don't let it turn into rumination.
That's good.
There's a difference. Don't let your quiet moments turn into blame loops and guilt loops and shame groups and feeling stuck. Like, true solitude is going to ask you what's true. Rumination is going to ask what's wrong with me. So one feeds the lie, the other one feeds the truth. And we'll put some more in the show notes and make these to be downloaded. The last one, even when it comes to being alone isn't failure. It doesn't mean you're not good enough. It's actually freedom. It gives you space. It gives you space to breathe, to reset, and to realign. So as we land the plane with this, don't overthink it. Make your connection simple. You might feel lonely. We all do. But that's okay. You don't have to stay there. Because here's the difference. Loneliness will drain you. Solitude, if you want to try it and you truly want to grow, it'll refill you.
Yeah, 100%.
Loneliness is the lie that'll tell you don't matter. Solitude says, I'm enough. The goal isn't to avoid being alone. It's to learn how to be there well. Just a final picture. It's like the sun rises and the sun sets. Like, darkness is often equated with loneliness. The reason we have great sunrises and things grow and they thrive is because there's also a sunset. We need to learn how to thrive in those darker moments and those alone times and use them not as a big scary monster under the bed that we want to avoid, but space to rejuvenate, to recharge, to reset, so that we can live and lead a whole, full, healthy life. Guys, it's not that hard. It's simple. Doesn't mean it's easy. And so that's the point of this podcast, to simplify things that you often hear and don't have a clue how to even begin. We want to help you guys take that step to be the starting point. Remember, this is not counseling. This is not therapy. This doesn't replace it. This is designed to be a tool on your mental health journey, or to get you to a place where you are comfortable saying, hey, maybe I'll check this out. If you have questions at any of those points, any of those stages, reach out to us. You can find us at mentalhealthmadesimple.life. We have a host of resources, tons of new things constantly being created and delivered, and some really fun things coming in the next few months as we get into next year. So you guys always subscribe, like, rate, review wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to YouTube, and we will see you right back here next week on another episode of the Mental Health Made Simple podcast.